Hi everybody, this is Chris from Skeleton. This is another progress update related to Skeleton Next, also known as Skeleton V3. We've been doing these regularly over the last, let's call it a couple months, just kind of showing you where we are in the process towards the next major iteration of Skeleton. If this is the first video that you've caught, you are welcome to come and check out the Skeleton repository on GitHub. Click the discussion section and then look for this pin post at the top. That's the proposal, RFC, and updates. Any of the updates or prior updates will be listed here, as well as just kind of an overview of what V3 is and what that will cover. So if you're curious about that, feel free to check that out. The focus of today's video, however, will be a combination of both themes and also very specifically the theme generator. I'll be showcasing the very first kind of preview of the live interactive version of the generator. So without further ado, that's kind of what you're seeing right here on the screen. You can see there's a couple of different things kind of thrown at you. I know it's kind of a lot of information for your first glance, but kind of break it down and show you a couple different things here. So first, we have a couple little tabs we can jump to at the top. This will show the previews for our palette, our typography, and our elements. So you can really kind of jump between those and say, okay, I'm tweaking color values, or if I'm adjusting typography values, you can really kind of zero in on those and make sure that you have the preview available to see that. Likewise, over on the right, you have your control panel. This is mimicking something like Photoshop or Figma or Sketch or something like that, where you have kind of a preview on the left, control panel on the right, with a bunch of settings that you can tweak and adjust. And so we'll see at the top, we have a little tab section here as well, which covers the color section, typography settings, we've got spacing, edges, and then also some extra display settings, which these settings may tweak or adjust or be moved around a little bit over time, but just FYI, those are there. Likewise, we have the light and dark toggle mode, so you can see between that, so that works across all the tabs and all the sections here. And if for some reason you're not familiar or you haven't seen it, we do have the previous iteration of the theme generator on our site, which looks something like this. You could enable a preview and then come in here and adjust some of the settings and things like that. So real quick, I'm just going to compare a couple things that have changed. Obviously, in the old version, you had a single color that you would seed to create a color ramp here. And so that color would essentially define your 500 shade here. You would have the lighter tones on the left, darker tones on the right, and then the contrasting tone for like text and icons and things like that would be set over here. Now that's going to tweak it in a couple different ways. It's going to be adjusted a couple ways for the new generator, which is one, if we come look at the palette, you can see it now goes from shade 50 now to not 900 like before, but actually 950. And this is an expansion that Tailwind's done for their color palette as well. We're just kind of following suit. The nice thing is this provides a balance. 500 is right in the middle with the exact same number of shades above or below, which is a really nice change. The other thing you're going to notice if I jump back over to the color section, it's actually asking for like primary, secondary, tertiary, these additional color values, but it's asking for like 3 variations of that. And so what we've done here is we've changed it from you're essentially seeding one color that's kind of generating this whole set, or if I did something like this, right, it would create the entire ramp. You can now do that with a little bit finer tuned control. So you have 50 is what the highs map to, this kind of top tone. Mids are going to be your 500 and lows are going to be your 950 down here. So if I want real quick, I can just click this and start tweaking and adjusting the color, and you're going to see the previews just update live on the left. So you can see this value up here is being adjusted. If I adjust the low tones, you can see that adjust and things like that. And then I'm just going to refresh, and that's just going to kind of reset everything back to default settings, but just so you have an idea of what that's doing. Now there's a few other things here. The UI is not final. Don't worry if this isn't super friendly, but there's a few other extra settings that maybe it's not immediately obvious what these are. And so one of which is now you have these two color values down here, which is setting primary 950 and primary 50 for your primary tone. And so what this is your contrast tones. And so if you look, you have these sort of dark tones at the top half and the light tones on the bottom. And that stays true for every color. And so what these are those values. So on the dark side, or the darker tone that's overlapping, you could set that to maybe something like true black. And so now this is actually a true black as opposed to what it was before. And then maybe go to true white, and this is true white instead of that, kind of using a little bit of that subtle primary tone in there. And you can tweak and adjust this. You can mix and match. You can do some crazy stuff. You could go with like secondary tone, and then it has a little bit of this kind of purpley tone brought into that. So lots of fun ways you can kind of mix and match and adjust those color values. The cool thing you might be noticing is as I'm adjusting all of these settings, it's moving the breakpoint for where that contrast ratio should change. It's doing that automatically. So that's some extra kind of magic we've worked into this so that we're doing our best to kind of ensure proper WACG color compatibility ratios. So if you are concerned about accessibility, if you're worried about that, know that's in there. And even if you're not, it's just kind of handled for you automatically, which is really cool. Now, the other cool thing is we have a couple extra buttons here at the top. We have the fun one here, which I'll start with, which is just use random color. And so as I tap that, you're going to see it's just going to randomly change this shade. And that works for any of these tones. So I can just kind of quickly come here and start changing those. The other cool detail you're going to notice is as these colors are changing, the actual UI on the screen is changing as well. So you see buttons up here change and down here and things like that. So we're getting an immediate preview of everything that's being tweaked and changed. So like even if we change like our surface tone, you're seeing that immediately applied there, which is really cool. Now the other cool thing you could do is like say you had a tone here and you're wanting to draw from like a design system or something like that your designers have passed you off, but you only have like a single color value to draw from, which is actually pretty common in the kind of design space. And so if you come in here and look at something like Discord's brand guidelines, they really only have like a single tone that they show you. They don't have that full color ramp available to you. But if you want, you can grab that color, like the hex value here, and we can come in here and we can actually plug that in. And so what we've done is we've provided this little seed value here, which is just a little prompt. Hopefully the video recording shows that. It's a little pop-up if you can't see that. And then I'm just going to paste the color value in here and hit submit. And it's going to do its best to go ahead and insert that color as the midtone, the 500, and create that ramp above and below to, provide a good amount of contrast between all of those. And this is really valuable when you come here and you look at like the full spread of the color, or if you come over and look at maybe like sort of the darker tones that are used for the tonal value for buttons and things like that. It's just allowing you to kind of do its best guess to kind of figure out what those high and low tones are. Now, if it's not perfect, or if you have a specific value you want to tweak or adjust that to, you can certainly go in there and kind of manually tweak that and adjust that to your preference. So very easy, lots of control, and just, honestly, a couple seconds there to create that entire color ramp with all the offset contrast tones overlaid, which is, it's a lot of magic going on between what's going on behind the scenes for that. It's really cool kind of how that's working. Now going a little further down, we obviously have all of the different color shades that we were talking about, but we also have some additional values down here for the background. So one of the things that we heard from the previous version of the theme generator was folks were always a little confused at how they set the background tone, like what you're seeing kind of back in this little section here and here on the page. They were always like, well, oh, I can override that with CSS, and there's these ways you can do it, but it was a little complicated. It wasn't always intuitive. And so what we've done is we've now broken out the background tones to now kind of draw sort of a nice default, which is just to use your surface tones here. But if you want, you can actually come in here and do something like a true black in dark mode and a true white in light mode, this is really kind of where the complaint came in, is a lot of people would say, oh, it looks very like, samey, or it's low contrast or something like that. Like I really want my light mode to be bright white backgrounds. And so now you can do that. You can adjust that. And if you're like, well, some of these other tones aren't quite where I want it, you can come in here and adjust those as well on the fly. Whether it's light mode or dark mode, you can really kind of tweak and adjust in both modes until you get that exactly where you want. So if you're like, this is a little too much or a little too strong or something like that, you can tweak and adjust that again until your heart's content there. Now I'm going to refresh again. This will just, what we're doing is we're not persisting these values yet. So if you've used the previous generator, you can like refresh the page and it would persist all the settings. We're not doing that at this moment. We will in the future, but just for now, I'm just going to use this as a quick refresh to reset the page and reset all the settings, kind of defaults, just to ensure everything's nice and clean and easy to read on the page. Now I'm going to jump to the next section here, which is the typography section. And there's going to be one setting here at the top called the typographic scale that's going to be super cool. So you may not understand like exactly what it's doing right out of the gate, but I'm going to adjust this slider and just kind of watch these headings over on the side. So we adjust this. You're going to see it's going to adjust various text sizing in a very like proportional manner. And so, like some of our pre-tag down here changes and a couple other things. If I go down to the paragraphs, you can kind of see what's going on there. It's mostly affecting our headings, even on the right panel as well. And so what this is actually applying a multiplier to your scaling factor for your typeset. And so that's a lot of words. Let's talk about what that actually means. And so if we come in here and we look at the actual preview, which is this little section right here, we can see what we're doing is we're essentially capturing a scale factor, which is this number here. So imagine 1.0 is 100%. This would be like, 110, 120%. It's just kind of increasing that, exponentially, 130% more and more and more. And so we're taking that and we're setting kind of a base scale factor here using these kind of RM values from here to here, and then using the scale factor to multiply that. And so again, a lot of kind of complex stuff going on behind the scenes, but what this essentially translates to is that you now have a set of canned styles that you can use for various kind of font sizes. And we've gone ahead and immediately applied these as the defaults for your heading settings. So anytime you want scalable or proportionally sized text, you can utilize the type scale system to do that. And so it does this really cool deal, like I said, where you can kind of adjust your headings. And sort of like in simplest terms, what it's doing is you can make your headers really big if you want, and it can affect some other things. We're not using the scale factor for just general like common text, like paragraph text and stuff like that. That's just going to be at its initial size, but you could easily adapt that and change that in your local style sheet to adhere to that if you so choose. We're just not taking a strong opinion on whether or not that's used or not. Now there's another couple of sections here for your typography. You've got your base styles, which are, basically think of that as the default text styles for the page, heading styles, and anchor styles. And we even show a little anchor link here to preview that. And so the easiest way to kind of show this is just to actually come in here and change this. So in dark mode, it's set right now to surface 50. But if I set that to, I don't know, let's go primary 500, you can see all the different places that's using that color value as that sort of for the dark mode is the default color mode for your base text, right? So lots and lots of places where that's applied. So that's a little dark for readability, and in something like this, so we could go something closer to this and have like a light gray, a light blue there for your dark mode. Now if I switch over to the light mode, obviously it's set to the surface 950, which is very dark, and so likewise, I can come in here and sort of do an offset with that as well to change that. So just again, giving you some settings for the light and dark mode versions of the text. We have the fonts, which are using different font families. Right now, we have a canned list of font families that you can choose from. But in addition to this, I do want to expand this to maybe be able to pull and utilize something from like Google Fonts or some kind of external font source, so that you can really mix and match and kind of preview the full experience of what your typography will look like in this screen, right? But you can see as I change this, if I go to something like, I don't know, handwritten or something like that, it's gonna look a little silly, but you can kind of see it's definitely different than what it was before. So adjusting all the styles all throughout. Again, I'm going to refresh just to kind of reset all these. And then you can see a few other settings here. We've got just standard stuff. We've got, your font size, your line height, your font weight, and then things like font style. That's going to be like if you want bold, italic text or something like that. This is your font weight for bold. And then letter spacing is like the spacing between words. Now this stuff's a little bit more relevant if you're adjusting just specifically headings. So if you wanted to say, I want a really wide letter spacing between between things. Like you can adjust that here and kind of see that previewed. And I think we have some of our numbers maybe a little out of whack there. I'll have to come in and fix that later. But you get the gist of like, hey, I want my headings to be kind of normal sized or light or bold or whatever. You can really kind of tweak and adjust those. And so you're just already kind of getting the idea of like lots of mix and match, lots of settings available for all of this. Anchors are the same thing. You can just change the color for your kind of default anchor color style. That's anything that's using the .anchor class, in case you're curious. And so if we want our links to be the secondary tone, we could switch to that. Maybe that's a little too dark for light mode, so we'd bump that up a little bit just for readability, something like that. So we can quickly come in there and adjust all of those settings. And then there's a handful extra ones just specifically for Anchor. You can say when you hover the link, it's got the underline, which you can see is set right there. Hover is set to underline. So all kinds of different options there. Really cool stuff. Want to refresh just to reset again. Now this next one is really cool. I'm going to come over to the element section to kind of preview this. It's only a single setting, but this should be very familiar to what we just kind of saw with the typography scale. So when we were scaling to typography scale, we would seeing like things like headings and things like that scaling up or down depending on what that scaling factor was. Now the spacing scale factor is a little different in that it's controlling things like padding, margin, width, height, gap, space, all of these properties that you're probably familiar with and have used regularly with Tailwind. And so what we've done is essentially extend Tailwind's spacing system where it, if you use P4 or, M4 for margin or padding, those classes are the exact same classes you were using before, but now we can apply a scaling factor. And so as I move this up and down, you're going to see, I'm going to go kind of down to the extreme here where it's very like tight and compact and like a low scale factor. It's like 75% of what it was previously. Even like some of the stuff up here is very like condensed and tight and kind of pushed together. And then if we go the opposite way, we can go all the way up to about 125%. Everything's kind of really spaced out. There's a lot of margin and padding spacing and things like that. There's a couple little things I need to fix here, like these icons are getting a little crunched up because of the size. But, for the most part, it's working pretty well. You're going to kind of see that. And so this is one of the things that kind of gets me very excited about V3 is that, in V2, the theming system was mostly just a color palette swap. But in V3, not only do you have these kind of in-depth typography settings, but you can adjust spacing and scaling and things like that as well, which goes really far. There's quite a lot of different, aesthetics that you can kind of match to by just having a couple of these additional options, and very easy to switch and change there. So very, very cool system. Edges are pretty much exactly what you would expect. This controls everything from like if we have our buttons on the left here, I can make those extremely like rounded or make them extremely like square. You have the containers, which are things like for your card styles and anything that's kind of a little bit taller, where you can make those like, okay, we want those to be like really rounded and maybe do something like this, where like now we have very, very rounded kind of looking styles here. Go like 24, yeah, something like that looks really nice. Borders are kind of the thickness of your border. So by default, we're just defaulting to that to 1, but you could go to 0, which just takes that away from everything. Affects our previews a little bit there, so I might tweak that a little bit. Or you go really thick, like you can have like these really kind of comical, thick borders or something like that. A couple other things that we've added that were previously in V2. Ring size, which is very similar. It's used for things like the outline buttons. If I set that up to a larger size, you can see how thick the rings get right there. Outlines are used for things like focus, and then dividers are things for like, see this like little line right here? We're using the Tailwind divider style to adjust that. So as I make that kind of real thick or something like that, you can see that used in application there. The final couple of things, and this is where it kind of gets really interesting, is the display settings. So these are not settings that affect your theme, your generated theme itself. These are just merely for the preview section over on the left. So if you can imagine, like, we've created a card, we've provided a particular, color value that we're using for the background of that card or something like that. We've provided an outline, things like that. but you may not like the defaults that we've kind of inserted there. You may be like, hey, I want those to be a little different. So imagine you come over to your color palette here, you set your background to, I don't know, a little bit lighter, and everything's kind of, running together. There's no contrast between like the card elements and the background or something like that. So you come in here and maybe adjust your background and do kind of a different preset that was a little bit darker. And so we've now flipped things, right? Now the background's a little lighter and the foreground's a little darker. And even if I flip this over to the other way around, like you can kind of see like what that would look like in kind of different modes and stuff like that. And I didn't adjust the light tone here. This would need to be 100. Yeah, something like that. So you can see like that was really not an effect you could easily replicate in Skeleton V2. But it's now very possible. And all that's doing, again, it's just taking the class that you're seeing previewed right there and applying that to a couple of the preview elements. Now, if we just border, that's going to do exactly what you would think. It just takes the border off. And so I'll probably have a couple different presets and different, obviously it's basically an on or off. And sizing is not really relevant here because, again, you adjust that here. So if you have big, thick borders and then you turn them off here, like it's only going to affect those couple preview elements. So just again, showing you some combinations of how you can kind of mix and match and do some cool stuff with the theme system. Now, you might be kind of wondering, like, what all can I do with this? Like, there's a ton of settings here, obviously, but what's sort of the end result of all this, right? And so what we've done is I've actually created a couple options just to preview. And so if we come and look at our documentation site, which should be available here at the, let's see, yep, right here. Next.skeleton.dev website. If you're curious, the theme, I'll share this link in the written version of this guide, but the theme generator will live at themes.skeleton.dev as well. So if you want to tinker with this after the video, please go there and check that out. But again, back to the docs, if we want to preview a couple of the themes that have been generated, we've got a handy little theme picker up here now. So you can see right now it's using what we're calling the next theme. The name of that will probably change, but it's this sort of dark tones with the blues and things like that. I've created one against Capuchin, I think is how you pronounce this, which is a nice kind of pastel-y kind of tone. It's got a light and dark mode that looks pretty nice. And you can actually go through and browse the entire site with this theme applied. So you can see what like the card styles look like. You can see what the accordion looks like, any of the functional components, things like that. We've got Pine, which is this kind of cool, like green, kind of foresty sort of inspired style and design. And again, you can go through all of the different modes. You can look at all the different components. This has very like sharp edges as opposed to the others. And then we've got like our rose theme, which is again just another kind of variation. Again, a little bit of pastel-y tones with some of the primary tones and things like that. And again, looks really nice. Looks really cool. And so all of these three themes were generated with the new generator. And so if we look at this, we look at the kind of light mode, et cetera, that I just really wanted to showcase what could be generated. And again, this is just the base style, the base template itself. It's not doing some of the extra bells and whistles that we've done for the V2 versions of the theme. So you might be used to having, sorry, wrong link here, having like these like gradient backgrounds and stuff like that. All of that is still possible with the new system. We're just not taking advantage of that currently. And so if I was to come and look at, let's see if I can showcase this really easily. Come in here and we go body style, computed style, background image. There we go. Yeah. I can turn off the background image just to kind of give you a comparison of like what a base theme would look like versus one that had like a background image, like a gradient or something applied to it. So it does give it a little life, little character. We will likely do something similar for the new iterations over here on the V3 version. We're just not there yet. So if you're kind of curious of like, oh, that looks a little flat, there's not a lot of like interest going on with the background or whatever, just know we're not quite to that point. We're just, again, establishing the base themes themselves, the color palettes, the rounding styles, and all of that fun stuff, typography, on and on and on. So that is what we have for that. The only other thing I wanted to showcase real quick is I just wanted to kind of walk through and show you what it might look like to create a theme here. And so I don't have any particular reference pulled up or anything like that. I'm just going to kind of wing it and just let you see the full process from start to end. And so we'll start by just kind of coming through here, and I'm going to, you know what, on second thought, I think I will take a reference. I think what we'll do is we'll come in here and we'll look at the Discord brand guidelines, because again, I think there's some really nice tones to kind of draw from here. They have kind of a green, yellow, and red that we can use for our success, warning, and error colors. They've got a couple other tones that we can use for our primary and secondary. They don't have something that we can really use for our tertiary color yet. So that may be something that we have to kind of wing or figure out. But, you know, again, I just wanted to show you how sort of simple the process can be. So I'm going to copy this main tone. I'm going to seed that in. I'm going to come in here and grab the fuchsia tone, and that's going to be our secondary tone. I don't quite know what our tertiary tone is going to be, so for now I'm just going to make that black, which will just kind of look a little funky with the seating. Let me see. Let's do. You can see I can adjust either through the selector, the seeder, or actually playing in the hex tone. So I'm just gonna hide that with a black tone just temporarily. Because I don't like tones that I'm not using to be, you know, present, because it kind of, I feel like, influences the styling, the design a little bit. And so we're going to grab the yellow here and seed that in, and we're going to grab the red finally here and seed that in right here. All right, and then that obviously leaves us the surface tone, which they don't seem to have present here. They just mentioned that they have a light and dark tone. And so what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to drag this window off to the side. So it'll be a little off, it'll be off screen for just a moment for you. And then what I'm going to do is, here, I'll just put a little mini portion of it on here if I can. There we go. Just see a little peek of it. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to grab this, and I'm going to try to grab this tone right here. And that'll give me my hex color, and then I'm going to say, let's actually seed that. Let's put that in there properly. So just enough to kind of get it operational, get it working, and then switch back. There we go. And now we can see that. Now this obviously looks way too dark for what they're doing here. In fact, this should probably be the darkest tone, and then maybe something in the middle. Yeah, we'll just kind of flip that around a little bit. And so we're kind of getting in the ballpark. Like, yeah, that's the surface tone looks right, looks better that way. The highlight's a little dark, so let's bring that up a little bit so we can actually see our text and things like that. But yeah, even with just that, we're kind of getting there. We're getting pretty close. Now we need an extra tone that we can use, you know, for here. And so for now, I'm just going to cheat. I'm just going to use the same tone again. And there's no fault to do that. There's no reason you can't do that. It just may be like your theme is limited. You only need a primary and secondary, and that's enough for you. And so you could either leave those tones black to kind of indicate that, hey, that's not something I'm going to use, or just double up and you know, utilize the same tone again. It's just an extra slot you can reserve for later if you so choose. And so, you know, right out of the gate, we're getting something that looks pretty good. Now there's some things that I don't quite like. I don't like how this tone looks. It should be, yeah, a little bit, you know, more like this. Maybe this is a little bit whiter. The pink down here again is doing that same thing where it's a little too dark maybe, so we're going to just copy that. Green tone is the same thing, so maybe this is some stuff we can adjust on sort of the default settings just to make this look a little nicer. I'm okay with that lighter tone. This again, kind of just bring this up a little bit. And then our air tone, I think that we can actually maybe do a little color shift there, going a little bit red. So it goes kind of orangey to red there. It's kind of a neat little blend. And just kind of tweak that a little bit. Highlights a little mushy there, so I'm going to bring that up. Maybe bring this up just a little too. And then boom, we have something that is, it's not one-to-one, but it's, you know, it's kind of in the ballpark of what you were kind of expecting. So if we come over here and we look, here's all of our button styles. And so what's cool about having the color palette kind of separated out over here is that we can even kind of tweak and adjust in this view. So while we're doing this, we can see the low tones are used right here. Maybe we need to bring that up a little bit. Like we can adjust that and make that just a little bit brighter to kind of just even those out a little bit. And then maybe this looks a little too odd, that maybe that red wasn't quite working. Yeah, bring it back over to kind of an orange tone. Yeah, something like that. And we'll have obviously much more that you can kind of preview and see here. I'm going to go a little bit lighter with this. Kind of keep a little bit of the blue tone. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. Yeah, so we're kind of getting in the ballpark. We could obviously switch over to the light theme and be like, okay, there's a couple things I don't really like here. Like maybe this needs to be pure white for the background. Maybe this is a little too much. Maybe it needs to be something closer to this. You know, I don't know. Some things to kind of tweak and adjust there, but you're getting the idea. Yeah, light tones maybe need to go up a little. This goes down a bit. Yeah. Just kind of getting us in the ballpark there again. So we kind of quickly compare. Here's the tones. Yeah, it's getting pretty close. Now, this is, a 5-minute job. It's not perfect. I'd probably spend a little bit more time on this if I was doing the real thing. If they had the actual type, their typography system kind of outlined here, we could come in here and try to match that a little bit. It does look like they use these kind of like big, impact style sort of like headings and stuff like that. So let's see if we've got an option that looks kind of like that. Old style. I don't want the serif. Yeah, that's in the ballpark. Maybe the typographic scale could go up a little bit because it looks like they kind of use these large, chunkier size headings. What do they do for fonts? Do they have a link here? Looks like they don't have any listed on this page, but my assumption is they would use the primary tone for that. So that probably works, so that might be a little too dark. Yeah, bring that up just a little bit there. In dark mode, it looks good. Yeah, something just like that. And then finally we can kind of preview our elements again. And yeah, so we're pretty close. Like this isn't, again, it's not a one-to-one with Discord. Like if we come and look at like their homepage or something like that, they've got some lighter shades here and things like that. They're doing this darker tones here. Actually kind of like that darker tone. If you don't mind me adjusting a little bit more here, I'm going to come down here and adjust. This is just me being picky. Nothing wrong with that though, right? Yeah, there we go. We can go with the actual kind of dark tone that they use down here. So that doesn't actually look like that copied exactly. I'm going to see if I can eye that a little bit. Yeah. Close enough. So again, some things we could tweak and adjust there, but it's kind of getting there. It's starting to look pretty cool. So yeah, just wanted to showcase that. Now you might be curious, like, okay, I've generated my theme. What do I do with it? And so again, I kind of showed you real quick. We have this preview in the code view. This is showing where you're going to have, you can name your theme. So we could call this, Discord, just as a kind of a quickie there. And then you can see the entire contents of the theme being generated right here. Now this format is not finalized, so this may be adjusted. You can see we're using an object. We may have a couple extra properties we kind of insert inside of this, but for now this is just kind of a nice preview of what it could look like. But you can see all of those values that we set. So we set our scale factors, we set all our base font styles, all our heading styles, anchor styles. We've got our body text, we've got kind of radius for border radius and edge styles, and then we have a whole bunch of color values, which is mostly the same thing repeated for each tone. We have all of the different shades for primary. We have the light and dark contrasting tone, which you can see is using a variable there to kind of draw from this sort of palette above. And then we have the actual contrasting tones, and you can even see where the breakpoints are. So you can see it's dark, 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 and then when it hits 400 there, it switches to light, and then it's light from there down. So very quick and easy to see that. You can actually see this stuff change too. So if I was to come in here and adjust a little bit, you can kind of see those numbers on the left start to adjust as I tweak the color values right there on the right. So it's all updated in real time. So you don't have to worry about anything getting out of sync or having to generate or anything like that. It's just constantly updated with the newest values that you supply there. But general idea is you would copy this out and then you're going to register and import that just like you would a theme in V2. It'd be registered in your Tailwind, the Skeleton Tailwind plugin, and yeah, you can mix and match with presets themes or custom themes, and all of that stuff from V2 will continue to follow through. But again, I just wanted to showcase like what is possible. I'm going to actually I'm going to duplicate and open a new window here just to see what we can, so we can kind of see the before and after. So like here's what it was with the default theme, and then here's with our Discord theme, just to show that, hey, yeah, there is some noticeable changes there. We didn't do spacing much, but we could probably adjust that a little bit just to really kind of showcase, some differences between the sizing, scaling, typography, colors, all of those things in conjunction. So again, all of this is available for you to preview live. It'll be linked in the written version of the preview. I'll try to put it in the YouTube comments as well. But if you come to either the skeleton next.skeleton.dev, you should be able to see the preview links here. We don't have a link to the theme generator yet. I'm going to try to squeeze that in before all of this goes live tomorrow when you should be watching this video. And then if you come to themes.skeleton.dev, that's the live preview version of the theme generator. So even though the themes are not going to be kind of one-to-one with the final format, you can at least, start tinkering with it, start seeing what the options are. And please do try it out. Give us some feedback. Let us know what you think. We do know there's some room for improvement for the UI and UX here, making things more clear, maybe some more instruction. Some folks may not necessarily understand why there's three tones presented at once. Maybe we adjust that. Maybe at some point we have an advanced option where you can adjust all all 11 tones, something like that for the power users. So we're not, just take that in mind. We're listening to your feedback. We do have plans to come through and do another pass through this to implement some settings and adjustments that we want in here that are not quite included. So the UX stuff I just mentioned, things like setting a background image, maybe being able to choose from a couple canned like gradient designs or something like that draws from your theme colors. That would be kind of cool. Using actual images, patterns, more typography settings. Maybe we have some semantic font styles and stuff like that. Maybe a little further refinement with the spacing. Maybe we break that down by like certain categories. Things like that. There are some ways that we can kind of go a little bit further with that to really kind of make everything look very unique and very make it your own kind of thing. So again, definitely come on, try it out. Let us know what you think. You can either kind of respond to the comment section on the YouTube video, come back over to the post here, or of course we have the Skeleton Next channel on our Discord, and we're almost on there every day. So please, feel free to reach out, and we will hear from you. So other than that, have fun. Know that we've got some updates still coming to this, and then again, look forward to future updates coming in the next couple weeks. Thanks, everybody.